Mexico shares a 2,000-mile border with the United States, the richest country on Earth. For 30 years, Mexico had free trade access to the American market through NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Agreement. Mexico has a population of 130 million people, abundant natural resources, and every geographic advantage imaginable. Mexico should be wealthy. They should have living standards approaching Canada or Western Europe. Instead, over 40% of Mexicans live in poverty. The minimum wage is about $8 per day, not per hour. 60,000 people have been murdered by drug cartels in the past 5 years alone. Entire regions are controlled by criminal organizations rather than the government. What went wrong? How does a country with every advantage waste 3 decades of opportunity? Compare Mexico to Canada. Both joined NAFTA in 1994. Both had free access to American markets. Canada's GDP per capita is $54,000. Mexico's is $11,000. Canada is wealthy, stable, and prosperous. Mexico struggles with violence, poverty, and corruption. This isn't about culture or work ethic. Mexicans work incredibly hard, often longer hours than Americans or Canadians. This is about institutions, corruption, cartels, and systematic failures that prevented Mexico from capitalizing on the greatest economic opportunity any developing country has ever received. In this video, I'm breaking down exactly why Mexico wasted the NAFTA opportunity, how cartels destroyed the business environment, and whether Mexico can finally escape the trap with nearshoring, bringing manufacturing back from China. Let's get into it. In January 1994, Mexico, the United States, and Canada signed NAFTA, creating the world's largest free trade zone. For Mexico, this was supposed to be transformative. The promise was simple: eliminate tariffs and trade barriers with the U.S., allowing Mexican manufacturers to export freely to American consumers. Mexico's leaders believed NAFTA would trigger an economic boom. Foreign companies would build factories in Mexico to access cheap labor while exporting tariff-free to the U.S. Manufacturing jobs would multiply, wages would rise, Mexico would industrialize rapidly and join the developed world within a generation. American and Canadian companies immediately saw the opportunity. Mexico offered workers earning a fraction of U.S. wages, located right across the border. Transportation costs were minimal compared to shipping from Asia. Companies could manufacture in Mexico and truck products to American markets overnight. The theory made perfect sense. Mexico had geographic advantages no other developing country possessed. South Korea, Taiwan, and China had to ship products across the Pacific Ocean. Mexico just needed to drive trucks across the border. Economists predicted NAFTA would lift millions of Mexicans out of poverty. The Mexican government promised NAFTA would create jobs, increase wages, and modernize the economy. President Carlos Salinas declared Mexico was entering the first world. For the first few years, it seemed to work. Foreign investment poured in. Factories called maquiladoras multiplied along the U.S.-Mexico border. Manufacturing employment grew. Exports to the U.S. exploded. Mexico's economy grew at 4 to 5% annually in the mid-90s. But the promise of NAFTA making Mexico wealthy never materialized. 3 decades later, Mexico remains trapped in middle-income status, while the initial optimism has turned to disappointment. In the first years after NAFTA, Mexico experienced genuine economic growth. Manufacturing exploded along the northern border. Cities like Tijuana, Ciudad Juarez, and Monterrey became industrial centers with hundreds of factories producing everything from electronics to auto parts to textiles. Maquiladoras, foreign-owned assembly plants, employed over 1 million workers by 2000. These factories imported components duty-free, assembled products using Mexican labor, then exported finished goods to the United States. American, Japanese, and European companies built massive facilities. General Motors, Ford, Sony, Samsung all established Mexican operations. Foreign direct investment reached record levels. Billions flowed into Mexico annually as companies built factories and infrastructure. Mexican exports to the U.S. tripled between 1994 and 2000, reaching over $150 billion. Manufacturing employment grew significantly. Hundreds of thousands of Mexicans moved from rural poverty to factory jobs, paying better wages than agriculture. The middle class expanded in northern industrial cities. The automotive industry became particularly important. Mexico produced millions of vehicles annually for export. Major brands assembled cars in Mexico, taking advantage of lower labor costs while maintaining quality standards for American consumers. But even during this period of growth, problems were visible. Wages in maquiladoras remained low, typically $2 to $3 per hour. Workers faced difficult conditions with long hours and minimal benefits. The jobs being created were low-skill assembly work, not high-value manufacturing or engineering. Most importantly, the wealth generated stayed concentrated. Factory owners and investors profited enormously. Workers earned subsistence wages. The gap between rich and poor widened rather than narrowed despite economic growth. The best way to understand Mexico's failure is comparing them to Canada. Both countries signed NAFTA simultaneously in 1994. Both gained tariff-free access to the massive American market. Yet the outcomes couldn't be more different. Canada's GDP per capita is $54,000. Mexico's is $11,000. Canada has virtually no poverty. Mexico has 40% living in poverty. Canada's minimum wage is around $15 per hour. Mexico's is about $1 per hour. What explains this gap? It's not NAFTA benefits. Both countries had identical trade access. It's not geographic advantage. Mexico actually has a longer border with the US than Canada and lower transportation costs to major American population centers. The difference is institutions and governance. Canada has strong rule of law. Property rights are protected. Contracts are enforced reliably. Corruption exists, but is relatively limited. Police and courts function properly. Businesses can operate knowing rules won't change arbitrarily. Mexico has weak institutions. Corruption is endemic at every government level. Police are often controlled by cartels. Judges can be bribed or threatened. Property rights are unreliable. Businesses face constant extortion from both criminals and corrupt officials. Canada invested oil wealth wisely. Mexico's state oil company PEMEX became a corruption machine. Canada built world-class universities. Mexico's education system fails most students. Canada maintained political stability. Mexico faced cartel violence that killed tens of thousands. NAFTA gave both countries the same opportunity. Canada leveraged it successfully. Mexico squandered it through corruption, violence, and institutional failure. Mexico's greatest economic failure is allowing drug cartels to destroy the business environment. Cartel violence doesn't just kill people, it kills economic development. No country can prosper when criminal organizations control territory and terrorize the population. The numbers are staggering. Between 2006 and 2012, approximately 120,000 Mexicans were murdered in cartel violence. From 2012 to 2020, another 150,000 died. That's over 250,000 people killed in 2 decades. Entire regions are controlled by cartels rather than the government. In states like Sinaloa, Michoacan, and Tamaulipas, cartels collect taxes from businesses, control local governments, and operate with impunity. The Mexican military fights cartels, but can't defeat them because corruption runs too deep. Businesses face impossible conditions. Cartels demand protection payments. If you refuse, they burn your business or kill you. If you pay, you're funding criminals and reducing profitability. Many businesses simply close or never open. Foreign investors avoid cartel-controlled regions entirely. Corruption enables the cartels. Police work for cartels more than the government. Politicians take cartel bribes. Judges release cartel members. The entire system is compromised. President after president promises to fight cartels, but violence continues or worsens. The economic cost is enormous. Tourism industries collapse in violent regions. Factories won't locate where employees risk kidnapping. Truck drivers avoid routes controlled by cartels. The World Bank estimates cartel violence costs Mexico over 5% of GDP annually, money that could fund development instead. NAFTA made some Mexicans incredibly wealthy while leaving most in poverty. Mexico has the highest income inequality among OECD developed countries. The top 10% earns over 40 times more than the bottom 10%. Carlos Slim became one of the world's richest people, worth over $60 billion at his peak. He controls telecommunications, banking, retail, and infrastructure through near monopolies. Meanwhile, half of Mexicans live on less than $5 per day. The wealthy elite in Mexico City live in luxury comparable to Manhattan or London. Polanco and Santa Fe neighborhoods have mansions, high-end shopping, private schools, and gated security. These areas look like first world wealth. Drive 30 minutes away and you find slums without running water or electricity. NAFTA's benefits concentrated at the top. Factory owners profited enormously from cheap labor and American market access. Workers earned barely enough to survive. The productivity gains from trade went to capital, not labor. Mexico's tax system reinforces inequality. The rich avoid taxes through loopholes and offshore accounts. Tax collection is weak. Government revenue as a percentage of GDP is among the lowest in the developed world. Without tax revenue, the government can't invest in education, healthcare, or infrastructure that would help the poor. Labor unions that could fight for workers were either corrupt or crushed. Collective bargaining is weak. Workers have little power to demand wage increases even as companies made record profits. The promise was that NAFTA would create a prosperous middle class. Instead, it enriched elites while keeping workers poor. This inequality creates social instability and limits consumer demand that could drive economic growth. Mexico had a massive advantage in the 1990s, proximity to the United States, but they lost it to China, a country 7,000 miles away across the Pacific Ocean. This failure is inexcusable. In 2000, Mexico was the second largest exporter to the U.S. after Canada. China was fifth. By 2010, China had become the largest exporter to America, surpassing Mexico despite having far higher shipping costs and longer delivery times. How did this happen? China joined the World Trade Organization in 2001, gaining access to American markets. Chinese wages were even lower than Mexico's. Chinese workers earned $1 to $2 per day compared to Mexico's $8 to $10. But wage differences alone don't explain it. Mexico had geographic advantages. Trucks could deliver products from Mexico to Texas in hours. Shipping from China took weeks by sea. For time-sensitive manufacturing and just-in-time supply chains, proximity should have been decisive. Mexico failed to move up the value chain. They stayed focused on low-skill assembly work. China invested in education, technology, and manufacturing capability. Chinese factories could produce everything from basic textiles to advanced electronics. Mexican factories remained stuck doing simple assembly. China built infrastructure aggressively. Ports, highways, railways, power grids all received massive investment. Mexico's infrastructure stagnated. Corruption meant infrastructure money disappeared into politicians' pockets rather than building roads and ports. China maintained stability despite authoritarian government. Mexico descended into cartel violence. Foreign companies chose Chinese stability over Mexican chaos. By 2010, Mexico had lost much of the manufacturing boom to China, squandering their proximity advantage through institutional failure. Mexico has significant oil reserves and was once one of the world's largest producers. Oil wealth should have funded infrastructure, education, and development like Norway's sovereign wealth fund. Instead, PEMEX, Mexico's state-owned oil company, became a symbol of corruption and mismanagement. PEMEX was founded in 1938 after Mexico nationalized foreign oil companies. For decades, PEMEX generated enormous revenue. But instead of investing in exploration, technology, and maintenance, the money was stolen or wasted. Mexican politicians treated PEMEX as a piggy bank. The government extracted massive taxes from PEMEX to fund general spending, leaving the company unable to invest in new oil fields or equipment. PEMEX accounted for over 30% of government revenue at its peak. Union corruption was rampant. PEMEX workers had guaranteed jobs, regardless of performance. The union leader controlled hiring, selling jobs to family members and supporters. Workers were overpaid for minimal work, while critical engineering and maintenance positions went unfilled. Production declined steadily. Mexico produced 3.4 million barrels per day in 2004. By 2020, production had fallen to 1.7 million barrels daily. Existing oil fields depleted, while PEMEX failed to develop new reserves. PEMEX also accumulated over $100 billion in debt, making it one of the most indebted oil companies globally. The company loses money despite selling a valuable commodity. Mexico's oil wealth disappeared through corruption instead of building prosperity. Compare this to Norway, which used oil revenue to create a $1.7 trillion sovereign wealth fund benefiting all citizens. Mexico cannot escape poverty without fixing education. Yet Mexico's education system fails most students, creating a workforce unable to compete in high-value industries. Test scores tell the story. In PISA, international assessments measuring reading, math, and science, Mexico ranks near the bottom among developed countries. Over half of Mexican 15-year-olds can't perform basic math. Reading comprehension is similarly poor. The problem starts early. Many rural areas lack quality primary schools. Teachers are often unqualified or absent. The powerful teachers union, SNTE, protects incompetent teachers from being fired. Teaching positions were historically inherited or sold rather than awarded based on merit. Corruption pervades the education system. Money allocated for schools disappears. Buildings lack basic supplies. Rural schools operate without books, computers, or even functioning bathrooms. Meanwhile, administrators drive luxury cars bought with education funds. University enrollment is low. Only about 30% of Mexicans attend any higher education. Among those who do, quality varies enormously. Elite private universities produce graduates comparable to American standards. Public universities are underfunded and overcrowded. Technical education barely exists. Mexico needs engineers, skilled technicians, and specialized workers for advanced manufacturing. Instead, the system produces workers qualified only for low-skill assembly jobs. The result is a productivity trap. Mexican workers can't move into higher-paying jobs because they lack skills. Companies won't invest in advanced manufacturing because workers aren't trained. Without education investment, Mexico stays stuck in low-value production. Countries like South Korea and Taiwan invested heavily in education and transformed their economies. Mexico starved education funding and remained poor. Economic development requires rule of law. Investors need confidence that contracts will be enforced, property rights protected, and rules applied fairly. Mexico lacks all of this, making serious economic development nearly impossible. The judicial system is broken. Only about 2% of crimes result in conviction. Criminals operate with impunity knowing they won't face consequences. Businesses can't rely on courts to enforce contracts. If a customer doesn't pay, legal recourse is uncertain and slow. Property rights are unreliable. Land ownership disputes drag on for years. Indigenous communities, farmers, and developers fight over the same property with unclear legal outcomes. Foreign investors fear expropriation or having assets seized through corrupt legal maneuvers. Police corruption is endemic. Most Mexicans don't trust police because officers often work for cartels or demand bribes. Businesses pay protection money to police and cartels simultaneously. Crime reporting is pointless when police are criminals themselves. Regulatory agencies are compromised. Environmental regulations exist on paper, but aren't enforced if you pay the right bribes. Building codes are ignored. Safety standards don't matter. Corruption means rules apply selectively to punish enemies or extract bribes rather than ensuring fairness. Political interference in business is constant. Governments change regulations arbitrarily to favor political allies or punish opponents. Companies need political connections to survive, not competitive products. Entrepreneurs without connections get crushed by corrupt inspectors and regulators. Without rule of law, Mexico can't build trustworthy institutions that attract investment and enable long-term economic planning. Businesses operate in constant uncertainty, limiting growth and innovation. Mexico has a second chance. Companies are moving manufacturing out of China due to rising costs, geopolitical tensions, and supply chain vulnerabilities exposed by COVID. This trend, called Nearshoring, could finally deliver the NAFTA Promise if Mexico doesn't waste it again. The opportunity is enormous. American companies want manufacturing closer to home. Mexico offers proximity, lower wages than the U.S., and existing trade agreements through USMCA, NAFTA's replacement. Transportation from Mexico costs a fraction of shipping from Asia. Major companies are investing. Tesla built a massive factory in Monterrey. BMW expanded Mexican production. Electronics manufacturers are relocating from China. Aerospace companies are establishing Mexican operations. Investment is flowing in at levels not seen since the 1990s. Mexico's manufacturing exports reached over $500 billion in 2023. The automotive industry is booming, medical device manufacturing is growing, aerospace is expanding. Northern Mexican states are seeing renewed economic growth. But will Mexico capitalize this time? The same problems that wasted NAFTA still exist. Cartel violence continues. Corruption remains endemic. Infrastructure is inadequate. Education hasn't improved. Rule of law is still weak. The difference now is urgency. American companies desperately want alternatives to China. If Mexico can't provide stable, secure manufacturing environments, they'll go elsewhere. Vietnam, India, and Eastern Europe are competing for the same investment. Mexico must reduce violence, fight corruption, invest in infrastructure and education, and strengthen institutions. Without these reforms, nearshoring will benefit a few northern states while most of Mexico remains poor and the opportunity disappears again. Why does Mexico keep failing despite every advantage? The pattern repeats, opportunity arrives, initial growth happens, then corruption and violence destroy progress. Understanding why requires examining the deeper structural problems. First, corruption is systemic, not individual. Removing corrupt politicians doesn't fix the problem because the entire system incentivizes corruption. Police officers earn poverty wages, making bribes necessary for survival. Politicians need cartel money to win elections. Businesses bribe regulators because competitors do the same. Everyone participates because not participating means losing. Second, cartels are too powerful and profitable. The U.S. drug market generates tens of billions annually from Mexican cartels. This money buys weapons, politicians, and police. No Mexican government can outspend the cartels. Until American drug demand decreases or legalization eliminates black markets, cartels will remain powerful. Third, inequality creates political instability. When wealth concentrates at the top, the poor have no stake in the system. This breeds populism, social unrest, and short-term thinking. Politicians promise immediate benefits rather than long-term reforms because voters are desperate. Fourth, institutions never develop strength. Mexico transitioned from Spanish colonial rule to independence to dictatorship to democracy without building reliable institutions. Courts, police, regulatory agencies all remain weak and corruptible. Fifth, there's no accountability. Politicians steal and face no consequences. Businesses pollute without penalties. Cartels murder without arrests. Nothing changes because nobody is held responsible. Can Mexico escape? Only with fundamental reforms. Judicial independence, police professionalization, education investment, and reducing cartel power. Without these changes, nearshoring will be another wasted opportunity. If you want to see a country that succeeded despite challenges, check out my video on South Korea's transformation. Hit subscribe for more economic analysis,